everyone. Please join us in singing Give Me Love.
Good morning and welcome to Unity Center of Walnut Creek. We are Heart Dream and we are here to wake you up today. Please stand and join us in singing. This is kind of a follow along and do as I say during the verses. You know, look at your friends and say nice things to them. And then follow us in the chorus with the singing, which and the words will be up on the board. So, bring it on.
So do you guys know who these people are? Heart Dream. Oh, yes, this is true. We have Heart Dream with us, Stephen Marabai. We also have John and David and Brian and Larry. Woo! We are so blessed with such great musicians that live right here amongst us. How blessed we are to have you guys this morning. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good morning, Unity of Walnut Creek. My name is Linda Stevens, and it is my joy and my pleasure to be here with you this morning and to help out with your service. Ooh, take a breath. That was invigorating. I need to take a breath. How about you guys? So please join me in turning to the camera and waving hello to our friends at home. We know you guys are there. We appreciate you. We love you. And you're a part of our service even though you're not here in the physical. Thank you for joining us. Now I encourage you to turn off your cell phones. And you can turn them on silent. You can turn them on buzz. The best thing is to turn them off so that they don't even bother you during the service. Thank you. Oh. Now, let's take a breath together. And I'm going to encourage you to sink into that place that you and Spirit know together. That's where you meet and where you know each other. Unity is a positive path for spiritual living. And we have a mission statement at Unity Center of Walnut Creek. In a loving community, we empower spiritual growth by modeling and teaching universal spiritual principles. Our statement of faith is going to be shown on the monitors. So I encourage you to take another deep breath. And together, there is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, the all-loving goodness of God. Now sink just a little bit deeper with another breath. And let's affirm once again, there is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, the all-loving goodness of God. Thank you. Now, if you're here with us for the first time, or you might have been gone for quite a while and come back, and it feels like all new because our building's new, there's new people here, there's a minister here, and if you're comfortable, I'd like for you to raise your hand, and one of our people, greeters, thank you for that word, it didn't come to me, will bring you a packet of welcome information. And if you'll take that packet to the bookstore, we have another gift for you, which is a beautiful wooden necklace of a dove that's made by one of our own congregants. There's also a connection card in that packet. And if you'll fill that out, we'll know that you're here, and you can also take that to the bookstore. And if you didn't raise your hand, it's okay. You can still go to the bookstore and get the welcome packet. They have another one right here. There we go. Perfect. Perfect. Welcome. Everybody who's new, please come back. And if you're old, please come back. Because it's you guys that make Unity Center of Walnut Creek. It's not just the people who work here. You're what makes this congregation thrive and grow. Thank you. Now, everybody else, there's a connection card in the seat pocket in front of you. Would ask that you fill that out to let us know you were here today. And you can submit a prayer request, and our prayer chaplains will be praying with you throughout the week. You can also share feedback with us on these cards. And if you request information, one of our staff members will call you back during the week. And now it's that special time where you get to greet your neighbors. So stand up and shake a hand or give a hug.
So after this, we do
But you know what? We gotta let it settle down a little bit because this is a real quiet song. What's after this? After this is the birthday song. Birthday is after this.
Let the signal get going.
Start. She said to start.
Oh, okay. All right.
Count off.
1, 2, 3, and... I'm on.
When you're back, please join us.
There is only one of us.
Hello, my name is Mike, and I'm happy to be here. It's birthday Sunday. If your birthday is in February, please stand up so we can celebrate with you. Okay.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear friends. Happy birthday to you.
This afternoon's racial healing workshop, Beyond Bags, has been postponed, and we're happy to announce a new writers' workshop. This is a great place where new and experienced writers can support each other in the writing process, and they'll meet on the third Sunday of each month starting February 18th. Would you like to learn how your response to color can help you heal your emotions and improve your health and wellness? Oh, yes. Okay. So join us in 2 weeks when Dr. Jacob Lieberman, who's an internationally recognized pioneer in the fields of light, vision, and consciousness, will be with us for our morning services and a 2 p.m. workshop. And there are only 3 weeks left to get tickets for the crab feed. We've got a crabby team on the patio today selling tickets and signing up volunteers. So that's 3 weeks. So please take a close look at today's bulletin for details on these and other activities. And I'd like to invite Reverend Kristen to come up and talk about interfaith and Karen Drucker.
Good morning. Mike was mentioning Jacob Lieberman coming, and he's featured in the January-February issue of Unity magazine, along with Reverend David MacArthur, who's also featured in there for his new book. Yeah. So some of you don't know who he is, but he was the he was the minister here for about 14 years until he retired in the last couple of years. But I want to tell you about yet another thing that's going on. It's very exciting. This Thursday, the Interfaith Harmony service is going to be held here. This is Interfaith Harmony Week. That was claimed that by the United Nations. And so it's a time for us to consider different ways that we can be in harmony with one another and within ourselves, of course, in our relationships. So right on time for the series that we're in the midst of. So this Thursday, we hope you'll join us. We'll be coming together from various faiths across Contra Costa County to have this service together, to enjoy music from various traditions, and to have an opportunity to hear people's testimonials of their faith and how their faith has transformed their lives. And you too will have that opportunity. There'll be 3-minute testimonials, some open mics, some planned shares, and some great music. And then we're going to have a reception afterwards catered by our very own Diana Messitz in the community room. So if you've had some of Diana's food, you know you want to stick around for that too. So hope you'll join this wonderful opportunity for us to come together in our community. And also, Karen Drucker will be here next Sunday. This just in. Yeah, so she'll be singing for us and providing music. So if you're a fan of her music, which I hear many of you are, you want to make sure you're here next Sunday. Thank you. Meditation, I should have just stayed up here. Ta-da! Susan, come on up. So we want to prepare for this time of meditation, and Susan's going to start us off with a reading.
Today's community prayer reading is a gift from A Course in Miracles, which says, "Truth has a power far beyond defense, for no illusions can remain where truth has been allowed to enter." Am I too close? Truth comes to any mind that would lay down its arms and cease to play with folly. So then, How strong is the one who comes without defenses, who speaks with honesty and courage, who listens with curiosity.
There you go.
Okay. It is this patient vulnerability and even one single authentic voice who creates a field of greater understanding. And in that field of understanding, diverse perspectives unveil shared desires. In that field, human dignity and divinity are rediscovered.
In the stillness of this moment, there is peace. There is peace. In the stillness of this moment, there is peace. There is peace. And I rest and trust and breathe and know that in the stillness of this moment there is peace. In the stillness of this moment there is peace. There is peace. In the stillness of this moment there is peace. There is peace. And I rest and trust and breathe and know that in the stillness of this moment there is peace. There is peace. There is peace.
So we allow ourselves to remain in the stillness of this moment. Just breathing easily and effortlessly. Opening our whole beings to spirit. Allowing our minds to be touched with the light of wisdom and understanding. And our hearts to be open to true love and compassion, kindness and understanding of one another. And these two meet, dance together, mind and heart are really one. And so in our mind's eye, we see that connection between mind and heart, that consciousness that permeates. In the oneness of mind and heart, we find a clarity to speak our truth. To show up from that authentic center. When we see that all these aspects of self are one, rest in that one spirit. All aspects of life flow. And there is that deep sense of peace. All is well. So let us rest for a few moments in the peace of our minds and the peace of our hearts in the silence. Give thanks for this knowing of peace, that no matter what is going on in the world around me, that even in the midst of chaos, this peace is always available to me. And with a single breath, I am reminded that I am spirit, and so it is.
That in the stillness of this moment there is peace.
joy. We'll see through this world of illusion. Our love is too strong to destroy.
Let's take the water through the mirror
And stand upon a different land
where all the unanswered questions can be found in the palm of your hand.
Let's ring out the bells of freedom. Our hearts beat the rhythm of joy. We'll see through this world of illusion.
Our love is too strong to destroy. We belong to each other.
We open up the sacred door.
And the rainbow never ends. For all serving on silver shores. We'll soar like the eagle, dance in the wind. We'll find our peace where truth begins. Let's ring out the bells of freedom. Our hearts beat the rhythm of joy. We'll see through this world of illusion. Our love is too strong to destroy. Oh, now we found our way back home.
Where integrity and faith are heard.
We're filling our hearts with gold from the sweet song of the bird. We'll soar like the eagle, dance in the wind. We'll find our peace where truth begins. Let's ring out the bells of freedom. Our hearts beat the rhythm of joy. We'll see through this world of illusion. Our love is too strong to destroy. Let's ring out the bells of freedom. Our hearts beat the rhythm of joy. We'll see through this world of illusion. Our love is too strong to destroy. Let's ring out the bells of
Yes, let's see through this world of illusion, shall we? There's an old story about a couple of adults that are sitting on a park bench and they're watching kids play in the sandbox nearby, and one of the kids starts throwing sand and they start, fighting about a toy or something, and one adult gets up to go, fix the problem. And the other one says, oh, let's wait a second, let's see what happens. And of course, in short order, the kids have made friends again and they're playing together again, as kids do, right? They seem to move through it pretty quickly. And so the adult that wanted to get up and fix it says, how is it that kids move through stuff so quickly? We seem to have a really hard time with that. And the other one says, I think it's because they always choose being happy and having fun over being right. As my dad would have said, isn't that the truth? So getting back to that sort of, that's kind of how we come in, right? That's our natural way of working through stuff. And so we can return to these very simple ways that are innate to us of working through our conflicts and our difficulties. We're in the third week of our series, Braving the Wilderness. Actually, the series is called Sovereign Belonging, but it's based on the book, Braving the Wilderness, by Brené Brown. And the subtitle is The Quest for True Belonging and the Courage to Stand Alone. So that's really what we're after and understanding as we move through this work. And today's title is Speak Truth to Hooey. Hooey. And you're saying now, who is Hooey? Well, I asked myself the same thing. And then by bizarre free association, Huey, Dewey, and Louie came to mind. And then I started wondering, now were those really Donald's kids? Or because he was Uncle Donald, did he adopt the kids? And so I needed to get to the truth, right? So I got on the internet and I started Googling. You know, can't read everything, you can't trust everything you read on the internet. So I looked at a couple of different sources. And it got really confusing. It turns out that like Dumbella, or then sometimes she was called Della, sometimes identified as Donald's sister, and sometimes his cousin, had sent a note with these 3 little angelic boys, she said, and said, somebody lit a firecracker under their father's chair, and he's gone to the hospital, and so here, Uncle Donald, here's the kids to take care of while he gets restored, you know. So why am I taking us on this crazy journey? Because that's kind of how it feels right here. I'm talking about a pretend, right? A cartoon. And it's like trying to weed through all this stuff to get to the truth. Do you ever feel that way in our world today? Yeah, there's a lot of Hewey out there. This is my euphemism for the day. Brene just goes straight for it and calls it BS, but yeah. I thought it's church. I should probably stick with something a little softer. So here's a difference between truth and lies and Hewey. Truth, we know what truth is truth, right? Truth in the worldly sense, in the relative truth, is just based on facts, right? It's getting to the facts. What's the facts of the situation? In the absolute truth, we're talking a little bit more about spiritual truth, a deeper truth. And we're working on both levels, right? We're in the world, we're not of it, but we're in the world. And so that's why this work is so practical, right? To take our spiritual understandings and put it into the world in a practical way, to deal with the things that are going on in our world from a spiritual lens, to speak truth to this Hooey, you know? But we have to understand what it is. So there's truth, and lies are actually opposed to truth. It's an intentional opposition to truth, right? Intentional opposition to the facts, let's put it that way. Hooey, on the other hand, is a lot harder to deal with because it's that gray area. You know, this is the place where stories are made up. This is that whole fake news thing, right? This is just where we've come to a point where there's so much of that kind of stuff out there, and then we're all expected to weigh in on every, topic in the world. Have you noticed that? Everybody wants to know what you think about what happened in Japan last week, and you're like, I don't know, I have no idea. And so we tend to think, well, what would my people think? Right? How would my people respond? So then we get into these ideological bunkers that Brene talks about, this sorting, and we kind of speak from the we speak space. It's okay to say, I don't know. It's okay to say, I don't have enough information, right, to weigh in on that topic. And so that's part of how we cut through some of this. Professor Harry Frankfurt wrote a slim volume on BS, which I find really funny that it was a slim volume. And in it, he tries to get to the crux of the matter, which he says we've become so skeptical of everything because there's so much of this kind of made-up stories out there. And so it's kind of like we get to the point we sort of, as Dr. Brown says, throw up our arms and say, whatever, I don't know what the truth is, so my opinion just makes it so, that's the truth now. That's what I'm going with. We kind of give up on the notion that there is observable knowledge, that there is a way to effectively problem solve together. But we can't give up, right? We can't give up because there is spiritual truth that needs to be known. Because we have to be able to work together both in a worldly sense to solve problems, but also to bring forth this spiritual truth that can really bring resounding resolutions, ways of being, spiritual qualities and values into full view. When we speak the truth, we make spirit visible. It's that creative process, right? We get a divine idea, or we get that feeling in the gut, that says something's not right. You ever get that? And so we know we must say something. We know we have some truth that needs to be spoken. This is when we're stepping out into the wilderness that she talks about, because we might say something that makes us stand completely alone from our people or from the people in the room. Or it might be that, we're told to toe the company line, or else you're not a team player. This is one of the ways this Hooey is set up. You're either for us or you're against us. These dichotomies, right? So part of the spiritual lens is to cut through the dichotomy and to say, wait a second, it's not just one or the other. We set up all these, after 9/11, it was set up this way. You either are for us and going to war, or you're not united with our country. It's like, well, isn't there somewhere in between? You're either for gun ownership or you're against it. Isn't there some conversation to have in between? So there's a lot of this kind of dichotomy that gets set up. You're either part of this organization or you're not. And so there's this difficulty for us to, and these are set up to silence dissent, right? These dichotomies are set up in desperate situations typically, or in controlling situations, to say there's no room for debate or questions, and anybody who says I don't agree is cast out, right? So it makes it really scary to be the one to speak up. But we must, right, when these things are set up. And how do we do it? Do you remember the story where Jesus is with a group of people, and it's an angry mob, and they're just carrying out the laws of the day? So the law of the day was, if you committed adultery, you could be stoned to death. And it's like horrific to even think about that this could be so, but it is so. It was so. And so there was this woman who supposedly committed adultery. We don't know who she committed adultery with, but apparently she's the guilty party. And there's all these people with big rocks, right? All these men are standing around these big rocks, and they're ready to carry out the law. And Jesus kneels down and starts drawing in the sand. We never are told what he's drawing in the sand, but then he stands up and he says, "Whoever of you has not committed sin or broken the law, cast the first stone." Oh. Everybody drops the rocks and goes home. Everybody drops their hatred, maybe up-levels their consciousness, and goes home. But the way that whole thing had been set up is, this is the law, and this is what we do. And what was Jesus doing anyway? Drawing in the sand. I think he was stalling. I think he was taking a moment to pray, to drop inside and to say, Spirit, what is mine to do right now? How can I reach these people? What can I say? What will be the wisest thing that can be said, that will be understood and heard, that will break the action here? Whatever that prayer might have been, I think that was part of it. So that first step is always aligning with Spirit, right? Dropping in, asking ourselves, something doesn't feel quite right here. I don't want to participate in this, but it's been set up as either you're with us or you're against us, right? And if I go against, then I'm standing out here all by myself. And maybe I'll get stoned, metaphorically, of course. And so, oh yeah, I didn't even mean it that way. Is that what some of you were laughing about? I got to keep remembering I'm in California now. So it's always that question, align with Spirit and find the truth. Allow ourselves to, it's always there, that wisdom is always there, trust it. Will it come out perfectly? Probably not. So what? I mean, we're doing the best we can. We're being as authentic as we can. And when we do that, when we break silence, when we cut through all this hooey that's creating divisiveness and creating problems of all kinds, then we have an opportunity to raise consciousness. At the very least, stop a hateful act. And so by aligning, by dropping in, by taking a moment, and then having the courage to just stand up and speak our truth and see how it lands. Jesus said, I came into this world, and reminds all of us, I was born into this world. I came into this world to testify to the truth. That's what it's all about. My whole life, my whole being, my actions and my words are about testifying to the truth. Now, sometimes we mean my truth and your truth, and yeah, that's all part. If it's authentic, that's all part of it. It's a relative part of this whole kind of continuum that we're talking about. There is that relative truth of my truth, your truth, what's in my heart, and there is that deeper, like underneath that very, maybe the back part of the heart or the underneath part of the heart, the very deep part that allows us to access spirit, that there's a deeper truth here that's based in value, that's based in compassion, that's based in kindness, but also strength and and courage, a willingness to break silence where silence needs to be broken. You know, in 2017, who Time named Person of the Year? The silence breakers. The women who broke the silence in Hollywood, in government, in corporations, in the strawberry fields. The women who came forward and said, no more. Yeah. And with that breaking of silence, we become a better people. We raise the level that we talked about last week. Remember that understanding, that line of human dignity. We raise it up so that it can meet this principle, this knowing of our innate divinity that says we are all worthy of respect and dignity. And it doesn't have to be an either or. You get to be an actress this way, you know? Or you get to be an actress because you have skill, you know? So whatever it is that we are breaking up these truths, this Hooey, to allow the truth to come forward, the innate divinity and dignity that we all have. You know, we pay a high price when we remain silent. We pay a price individually with our integrity, and we pay the price collectively with this divisiveness that comes as a result of not being willing to stand, to take a stand. Martin Luther King Jr. said that there comes a time when silence is betrayal. And we all know where it gets to that point, right? Plato said, I'll take your silence as consent. 10 days after that, Harvey Weinstein thing was exposed, and then more and more stuff became exposed. Alyssa Milano, who was an actress, took a cue from Tarana Burke in 2006, who started the Me Too idea, but it didn't take off then. It wasn't time, right? It was a precursor to another time when the time was right. So Alyssa Milano didn't know. She just tweeted out, if you've ever been sexually harassed or assaulted, just respond to this tweet with Me Too. And then she went to bed, and when she woke up, 50,000 people had responded, and a movement was born. Timing is a part of it, right? We don't always know the divine timing. All we know is what's in our hearts and in our guts to say enough of whatever, or this is the truth, which is one and the same, really, because a truth emerges when we stop something that isn't true. You know, and it happens, it's not just about starting movements and all this, because sometimes that can be a little overwhelming to come Sunday and then walk out and go, okay, well, I'm not Martin Luther King, and I'm probably not going to start a movement tomorrow, but what about at home? You know, what about all the ways that in my daily life that I can practice these principles? There was a couple that was having an argument, and they went into silent treatment all day long. Anybody ever go, you know, it was this kind of experience all day long, you know, passing each other, not looking, you know, this kind of stuff. So they get to the evening, you know, they're still not talking. They let the sun go down on their anger, you know. That's that old adage that really works. Don't let the sun go down on your anger, you know. But they did. So he's laying in bed, and he realizes as his wife is falling asleep, oh my gosh, I've got an early flight tomorrow morning. Now this guy is a sleeper, so he sleeps through his alarm, and usually his wife will wake him up. She's like, what am I going to do, you know? So he decides that the best thing I can do is write a note, and I'll put it right where she'll see it. I know absolutely she'll see it when she wakes up. So he writes, "Please wake me up at 5 a.m." on a little Post-it note right where he knows she'll see it. So he wakes up in the morning. The sunlight's already coming in, really bright in the room. It's 8:15 a.m., missed his flight. And he's like, "Oh, no, she didn't wake me up." And he rolls over, and there's this little papery thing behind his head, and he pulls out, and it's a note, and it says, "It's 5 a.m., wake up." That's what the silent treatment will do for you. All right, somebody's got to have the courage to break the silence and speak the truth. "Honey, my feelings are hurt." You could start there. And then whatever else needs to come from that truth, right? So speaking the truth in all these ways, small and big, makes a big difference in our world. It can be a route to healing. You know, and we can be kind about it. In fact, the Buddhist teachings give us, in skillful speech or mindful speech, 3 questions to ask. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? So as we're considering, do I want to say this? We can say to ourselves, is it true? Yeah, it's true. It needs to be spoken. Is it kind? How can I say it in a kind way? Is it necessary? Yeah, I got to say it. You know, so that we can kind of use that as our form or our guideline before we speak and how we speak these truths. But we don't want to allow things to go on that violate human dignity and divinity at the very least, right? We want to break the silence on those. And when we speak those truths, allow spirit to become visible. Allow that creative process to happen where the ideas get formed into words, and trust that they come from spirit and that spiritual offering is put out into the world. Let me offer you this truth with compassion. Let me offer you this truth that will raise up all of our consciousness. Let me offer you this truth, this wisdom that is coming through me. We don't have to say all that, but that is a part of our understanding of what is being offered. You know, and be civil, right? This is a big part of this chapter in the book that we're working with, is speak truth to Hooey and be civil about it, you know? So what does that mean, to be civil too? Boy, there's a lot to work with here, right? Cassandra Donkey and Thomas Spaeth, the founders of the Institute for Civility in Government, give this definition of civility, and Dr. Brown says when she does her research, all these people that she interviews have basically given her the same definition of what it means to be civil. And so it is civility is claiming and caring for one's identity, needs, and beliefs without degrading someone else's in the process. Civility is the hard work of staying present, even with those with whom we have deep-rooted or fierce disagreement. That is hard work, isn't it, sometimes? To stay really present, to not try to skirt around the conversation, dismiss the conversation, end the conversation, you know, and just remain silent. But to know where that line is for you, where your human dignity, or you feel like, you know, you're being attacked, where you have to just say, no, I'm not having this conversation anymore, or here's another way we could go about this, you know. So how can we stay really present, bring up the full spirit to listen and to know when and what to say. To stay with it as long as we can stay with it, in other words. Until we really feel like, oh, I have to shake the dust off my sandals and move on. This isn't working right now. So, you know, we get it a little confused, though, this thing about speaking truth and being courageous. And here's an example in the book that I want to share with you. She talks about a man in his 20s who's driving home to see his father. And this is especially cast in the idea of this deep-rooted kind of disagreement, you know. The young man and his father have had these disagreements, you know. And so they get there, he gets there, and he's talking to his dad in the kitchen, and he says, hey, Dad, how are your new neighbors? And his father says, oh, we really like them. We've had them over for dinner a couple times, and we've become friends, and they're actually making us dinner next week. They're Oriental, and she's going to make her special dumplings. So Mom is really looking forward to it. And the young man just rips right into his father. Oriental? Are you kidding me, Dad? Racist much? He says, that is so embarrassing, Dad. Is there a place on the planet called the Orient? Ugh, gosh. And so rather than engaging, his father just drops his head and like looks at the floor. And when he finally looks up, he looks up teary-eyed. And he says, I'm sorry, son. I don't know what it is that I've done to make you so angry. It doesn't seem like I can do anything right. Nothing's good enough. And then they're just kind of quiet for a while. And then his father says, you know, I'd stick around to let you tell me more about what a jerk I am, but I need to pick up my neighbor's husband, you know, the ones I supposedly hate, because he had cataract surgery and she doesn't drive. So I need to go now. And during this interview with Dr. Brown, the young man said, I didn't know what to do or say, so I just walked out and left. He didn't know how to be civil for whatever reasons, because maybe there was deep-rooted disagreements or whatever it was for them. But let's not be confuse these things, because being civil includes being kind and compassionate. But it's not about necessarily being really nice in the way that we've understand niceness in our culture. Kelly Bryson wrote a book called Don't Be Nice, Be Real. And he says that we have a hereditary disease called niceitis. And he said, and that actually breeds, you know, it's kind of a cruelty in which we breed our children and we raise our children to be nice girls and nice boys, right? And by doing so, that means that they're quiet and controlled. And when we do that to people, we kind of break the little spirits, right? And then those individuals, this training kind of breeds over, and it breeds this sort of depressed culture that life force is drained out, right? The passion is gone because we have to fit in. It's a culture of fitting in and avoiding conflict out of this idea of being nice. But that's not the truth. That's not the authentic truth of spirit. If Jesus and Buddha were all worried about being nice all the time, we wouldn't have the movements that we had in their names, or all the other spiritual masters, right? Because there's a time to be strong and courageous and clear, and that is the most loving thing to do, to break the silence in these situations. So Kelly Bryson in this book goes on to tell a story about how a woman wants to read her story in a group. She said, oh, would anybody mind if I read my story? And the group says, well, how long is the story? Because we want to have time to socialize tonight. Instead of just saying yes, right? And if it's a couple pages, it's okay, but otherwise, no. And he says, how often do we just say yes, even though we mean no, because we think it's nice? And instead, those same people who say, yes, you can read your story, are the same people who are coughing and fidgeting and whispering to their neighbor while the person is reading the story, right? He says that people in nice cultures let themselves be oppressed by someone's request and then blame that someone for not psychically knowing that yes meant no. Again, Jesus. Let your yea be yea and your no be no. Be clear. Those who set clearer boundaries, and this is also found in Dr. Brown's research, those who set the clearest boundaries are the ones who are perceived as the most trustworthy. Because if our boundaries are clear, then people know where things are, where things sit with us, and they can feel like they can trust us. If we're all like wishy-washy nice all the time in the way that he's talking about it, it doesn't feel very good. It doesn't feel very trusting for somebody to say yes and then roll their eyes while you're doing the thing that you just gave permission for them to do, you know? So this is a part of it too, learning how to show up, how we show up with each other, and how we speak to one another. Aligning with Spirit first is always the first step. You know, taking a moment, drawing in the sand, or taking a moment just to breathe into the truth that is within us, you know, to access that heart wisdom, to know that there is intuition and wisdom within us that will say, speak now, or speak this, or open the conversation and see where it goes. Trust it. Break the silence. Have the courage to be the one to break the silence and see what happens. And then be compassionate and courageous as we move through it, compassionate with ourselves as well. You know, the scariest thing when we come to the end of our lives is asking these questions. You know, did I speak the truth? Much scarier than braving the wilderness during our lives is to come to an end of our lives full of regrets. I didn't tell the truth. I wasn't authentic. I wasn't fully clear. I didn't speak to that thing that happened that could have even saved lives or helped lives. You know, so it's finding that line that we're walking of human dignity and divinity and raising it up and having the courage, because the truth be told, when we step out and stand alone, it often isn't for very long before we have 50,000 people behind us, like Alyssa Milano did. It just takes that first person to say, I'll do it. I'll speak the truth. I'll be true to my own being, my own body. It's wisdom that's telling me, my own intuition, my spirit. And I'll come forward with that truth so that I'm not regretting, that I know that I played full out, that I engaged fully, and that I gave of myself by speaking up, and knowing that all voices matter. Do you really know that? Do you know that your voice matters? Your voice matters just as much as anybody else's. We all have different roles and responsibilities in this world, but that doesn't make us more powerful than one another. We all have equal power. We all have the equality of spirit within us. And that is enough power to overchange anything, to cut through any kind of hooey and bring forth the light and the truth of who we are and what we want to be as a society together. So let's close out with this affirmation and bring this into our week to stand in our spiritual authority with kindness. Together, I speak the truth with spiritual authority and kindness. And so it is.
There was so much in that, I don't even know what to say thank you for. You know what? It'd be helpful if you had notes. We should actually have notes in the thing. Share your notes with us. That was fantastic. Thank you so much, Kristen. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Ooh, did you guys all get something out of that? Absolutely. Very good. So take it and use it this week and every week. Our prayer chaplains are available after service today to provide personal prayer support. They're wearing the lavender stoles, and whether you have a joy or a concern on your heart, praying with our prayer chaplains is a powerful way to have your intentions raised up in consciousness. Now, let's open our hearts to the consciousness of giving. As we give, so shall we receive, which is the law of circulation. Because in truth, we have no lack and no limitation, because abundance is our true nature. Now I encourage you to take your tithe and your love offering in your hand and repeat our affirmation with me. Together, I love blesses me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am joy-filled and grateful. Thank you.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
United we stand, divided we fall. Come on now, people, let's get on the ball.
Let's work together.
Come on,
Let's work together. Because together we will stand. Every boy, girl, woman, and a man.
Well, 2 or 3 minutes, 2 or 3 hours. What does it matter in this life of ours?
Let's work together.
Come on,
Let's work together.
Because
Together we will stand. Every boy, girl, woman, and a man.
well, now make someone happy, make someone smile. Come on now, people, let's make life worthwhile and work
together.
Come on,
Let's work together.
Because
Together we will stand. Every boy, girl, woman, and a man.
well, now make someone happy, make someone smile. Come on now, people, let's make life worthwhile.
Let's work together.
Come on,
Let's work together.
because together we will stand. Every boy, girl, woman, and a man. Well, now, time's up now, people. Walk hand in hand. Let's make this world a better place to stand and work together. Come on, let's work together. Because together we will stand. Every boy, girl, woman, and a man. Because together we will stand. Every boy, girl, woman, and a man. Because together we will stand. Every boy, girl, woman, and a man.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And that's the truth. We're all standing together. We give thanks for this abundance of truth that's just been sung about and spoken about, this truth of breaking silence when we need to break silence. And to give thanks for the truth and the light that spills forth just as these gifts come forth and multiply. We trust the process. We trust our spirit. And let's bless these together with this affirmation. We give thanks for the ever-increasing, unceasing flow of absolute good in our lives now. So it is.
We are marching in the light of God. 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 We are marching, marching, we are marching, marching, we are marching in the light of God.
Do you want to share anything with us? Wow, nice. You're all set for Valentine's Day already. That's awesome. Well, let's bless our children and our teachers together. Children, youth, and teachers, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the divine light within you.
Right.
Amen. So let's join with our neighbors and close out with our prayer of protection and our peace song. Together, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God ever present. Family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with
On earth right now. So let your light shine and have fun.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.